These are the three natures of 10. I didn't read this, the decipher. For example, that's why three natures of 0 repeat in relationship to a pattern with the numbers. And that's the value, a right to left value, Allah coming left to right, as the value inherent to the as the value of the alpha and the omega juxtaposed, being value W, written as a measurement of inherent value. The uppercase letters are written to show the identity of unchanging positive value, to teach about it. But space nature has one positive identity that is a nature of positive value that we are a species to see this through correlation, as well as sharing the identity with Earth. And so when we are negative value nature, our positive value nature is forced away from here. And that causes negative value nature progressions and demonstration of it. But these negative value nature progressions have been blamed on everything else but their actual causes, not by accident. These being more complex. Not beyond simple truths and means to understand, but beyond protraction of truths realized. And how? We must understand now with the debates coming up between our presidents, time measured impositions of the time impositions about, in other words, more impositions upon them than there are time hours in the day. And that's why they have people that they're relying on to do that. But the people relying on to do that are also relying on other people, in other words, as forced to entertain business and legal treatments of facts, as is, which forces nations to stay retreat natures, for realizing that a nature of humanity only letting realized invested needs to stay, justifying the way we are. Anyway, so this is the alpha and the omega, which is a value nature. There's two types of value. There's unchanging value, and then there's all other values. Okay? And they're in demonstration of this. And not just with value A. To understand this, we have to understand all space as a body, as one body, in demonstration to us, with one body, being its shared value. Like we're like, in other words, we're like parts of like all the parts of our bodies, our individual bodies, each cell, each organ, but they all share one positive identity, and we share one together as a species and as a planet that everyone loves. That's why gardening is the agenda of religions. No, not just not just the religions of Jesus. So the negative value nature numbers come between A and W. These are the negative value numbers. This is the 0 we know, and this is the other 0 we know, and 10. But it's the 0 where there's the bond to matter. This is the bond to matter, actively pointing up, actively in demonstration to what? This is only a positive, this is unchanging positive, only inherent to and as the bond of temporary matter, temporary physical space nature. And that's pointing up. And it's pointing 2 ways down. And we're going to see this is there are 3 natures of diffusion as the only unchanging positive space nature actively in demonstration to us. And we're going to see how each of the sciences was criminally re-engineered to hold multi-front positions with the treatment of facts. to perpetuate the obfuscations of this conversation, to perpetuate a species evidence fabrication method, demonstrably tied to crime statistics and tied to convictions being attached to them and claimed scientific, and in relationship to things like expert lean, which is even worse than mission creep, for example, which is a term I didn't make up. Mission creep. And I forgot the other one I just said, but I made that one up. But it's not. It's facts prove it. So there's the nature of zero in the middle. There's the nature of zero that we can only see through correlation. One way, and there's no vertically, and there's another way that we can only see zero through correlation horizontally. Okay, and we're going to see how, in other words, Allah's name is used to teach not math, but what the ancients probably, I would say they most probably called algebraic consciousness, revealing psychology as something that delusion propagates, and not by accident having that juxtaposed with our courts never on charge for their original roles with slavery and with criminal insidiousness in relationship to that, not just with that one isolated concept, but with the whole overall terror legal system. Like, in other words, with witch trials and with terror laws that made it only a penalty for anyone who met to discuss infrastructure outside of internationally monitored database conversations. But they terror if someone was met to decide they wanted to build something, they would hurt the whole family too. That's the nature of the laws they used with colonization. See, but we don't teach this because they have insidious. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police force. I'm not a criminal. But religions are implying about the ancient laws and about ancient education, how it was criminally re-engineered. This is what real science reveals the religions being about, not surface forced narratives and delusions to make it, it's only what is inherent to a method with these religions, knowing they were going to have to hand themselves off to conviction natures of humanity, only realized through criminally engineered human education. And so facts treatments, and so human nature, and so to all areas, blaming negative value nature progression, hurt conviction natures of everybody, that then play out hurting more as their tools, but no one even realizing what the real persuasions were with colonization, which are natures of organized crime, which were taken into juxtaposition with originally shared market positions, and so forced shared police positions, not with nations forced extended abroad and here too. This was forced by what our founders were trying to fight against. But see, for example, different nations, they all don't teach history, and like our own nation does this too, because we lost on many fronts. So they just hold blind convictions about what happened with history, and they leave out the criminal insidiousness narratives. And see, now we have modern experts insidiously dictating that reality is what criminal insidiousness forced reality to be explained as, and them justifying it by saying, well, look, history's too dirty for the kids to explain it to them. So they don't explain it to them, and they put the forced criminal insidiousness narratives that were forced on our founders with political theater. In other words, they just began fronts in a war, not against England, against England physically, but it was against the same it was against the same thing that was extorting the kings and queens of Europe, right from the geopolitical campus that was criminally re-engineered before their modern nations were founded. So no one understood it. Everyone's Oz to the concept of education too. We must understand, like around 500 to 1000 A.D. The Dark Ages were wrought. Everyone was wrought into complete, not just ignorance because they lost education, but they were tactically pseudo-educated, categorically pseudo-educated in every nation to self as Oz, blaming each other and negative value, real negative value nature progressions, real wars, blaming that as the substance of what caused it, and just forsaking trying to figure it out because of the nature of it being with the campus first, with education first. So and because of everyone blaming on others, that's what Jesus said, you need forgiveness. This is about the law. He's not saying forgiveness, let everyone just keep being hurt everyone and not try to hurt it out of the innocent people. And for things they don't do to hurt anybody else, making up evidence fabrications. We have hurt conviction natures playing passions. Like, for example, we have these KKK guys on in the media and on Facebook. And they're not being honest. They don't really believe that stuff they say, you know. And there are recorded proofs of this, but then they pretend. In other words, it's in relationship to more complicated natures of organized crime with the courts, because it's with confessions, a whole bunch of confessions in relationship to and forged documents and methods of this with our branches, and then they say, well, sue us first. Or they offensively put lies into databases and direct a whole bunch of multiple people to tell different things than the truth when it's in relationship to the phenomenon of once in a while people realize means to explain the phenomena really with our streets, you know. Even though the police have all these insights and know a lot more about dirty stuff about it than us, and positions with it normalized, like and them Oz to it. It's not by accident that they're juxtaposed with all kinds of normalized prostitution and things like that, and human standards that were never free. That's why they have to do those things. And this is not the natural. In other words, all the people involved with these. With these natures of crimes that are juxtaposed with our areas, like with the colleges. This is in relationship to evidence fabrication methods that enable that, because there's a whole bunch of ways to question people after about things and have them not be able to tell the truth, and then be able to persuade them to explain it the way that the state people need it explained, after having them affected to need to tell lies. By the way, but in relationship to natures of organized crime, in relationship to the police forms that are juxtaposed here in relationship to the policing of international markets positions. See, Mashantucket Pequot Native Tribal Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Museum, the oldest Native American museum in the nation. They semi-remember. See, the Native Americans were taken to retreats, forced to denatured education, and to losses of stability to be able to receive it, and to be able to understand means to explain the impositions of natures of criminal insidiousness juxtaposed upon them. In other words, criminal insidiousness natures, all kinds of wrongdoers for all kinds of ulterior interests, but per the same method, holding that to hold in the end long-term evidence fabrication methods that really are what justifies the law, justifying standards that have so many people calling out from poverty for so long. They put terms like war on poverty because they trick our legal natures, only let realize trained to roles with this, and by the time they come up to the complex litigation language. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a police form, I'm not a criminal. You know, what I'm trying to show is truth. This is what religions are about. How we never got to tell the truth, and this is why we have to understand legal terms like criminal enterprise, an archetypal criminal enterprise, because there's proofs of that. There are proofs of the, in other words, the multi-front human education, organized crime method, and organization came before modern nations. In other words, before kings and queens. And so to inherit them as ours. And so to inherit them as functions. And so to inherit them only realizes her conviction natures in relationship to that all the other being realized once human education is gone. Because what revealed human education originally was what is actively in demonstration to us. And that's what the Campus Martius is all about. The criminally re-engineered stage of time. This is not Roman. This is Etruscan Roman, which is Rome's part of it, of an internation science. Etruscan was everybody. It was internation science was originally embraced and loved by humanity. There was no such thing as war, and they revealed what is actively being in demonstration to us, and there are proofs that they revealed this English, the ancients before England, and that one of the reasons that our scientists failed to do it is because English is revealed to teach interscience in ways that reveal lies being told in incompetence interscience. For example, with the law. In other words, English being designed to teach about the only active positive value nature and demonstration to us always as the same value. For example, that's why we're a species with positive value nature beyond our control, positive values nature. And then why we are individuals with the nature of positive value beyond our control. You know, we can only control negative value nature. Why? Because what is only positive value nature is actively in demonstration to us with all bodies of value. And it wants us to be it always. That's why it wants to make sure. So we have means to correlate, or this is good for me, this is positive to my body's physical identity. But is it positive to what's inherent to my complete body's positive identity? In other words, and how to know this is it positive to the entire species? And is it positive to all bodies of value within it? You know what I'm saying? This is correlation. This is how we are correlation nature. And English is designed to teach about nature. For example, every independent clause. Freedom wants independence. Freedom is a cause that if wanted, needed, that's a reflection of top-down corruption with the law. So we have to understand what originally made this, which is not prejudice. These are more complex natures of organized crime. There are proofs of this. And we have courts forcing this conversation only to be had before them. And the proofs of them not even mentioned because of the nature of how this maintains to all areas. So maintaining them having to maintain lie progressions and mistreatments of the truth. In other words, if we have criminally legalized criminal enterprises, which the religions are demonstrating we have, and science demonstrates we have, even though I'm not a lawyer, or science demonstrates that especially criminally legalized criminal enterprises cause negative value nature progressions. They cause our homeland police to have to investigate. And for example, with 9/11, what they were already investigating to tell lies to conceal for ulterior motivations. Them not even understand. So they're negative. They're wrongdoers in relationship to what was we have a lot of wrongdoers induced by criminal enterprises. That's what made, those were predicate acts, people who took part in slavery. The predicate acts in relationship to a criminal enterprises that caused them. But see, you can't put the criminal enterprise that caused them, were using them for breaching methods, for evidence fabrication methods, for divide and conquer, to divide and conquer physically, long term, for breaching purposes, to have the means to maintain everybody with a relationship to terror databases from positions abroad, and from positions abroad not realized, with the only positions, natures of positions let realized here. That's the problem. See, so England couldn't explain it either. What was going on? Everyone was only let realized to a pathology that was being played against itself to perpetuate the extortion of nations, and they knew about America. They left this out because the logistics of the nations they built in Europe are too small to not stay extorted in in relationship to needs to stay with shared forced market positions, and everyone just defending themselves, you know. And then they say, "Oh, for one for all." But that's being said like criminal enterprises for criminal insidiousness. We have criminal insidiousness that was never explained in relationship to the worst terror laws of colonization. And so they're still playing out the tactics they wanted played out, blaming it on prejudice and stuff like that. That's why those guys were pretending to be American. They have the swastika on the arm because they pretend to be German too, because what they really have a relationship to are facts, mistreatments, and methods with our courts and prisons, like Joseph Mengele. Joseph Mengele what was with political theater too, just like these KKK guys. Joseph Mengele, but this is against Germans. See, they make, just because some guy puts a American flag up and says, I'm because I'm fighting for America because these people wrecked the country, because they're nuts, because the sciences leaves everything divide and conquer. They're playing out roles with this hurt conviction natures, only let realized, blaming it on the wrong things, because they're right to be hurt for a whole bunch of things. You see the negative value natures upon the courts. People do bad things, and they don't, because it's not really the people who do it. We're not seeing all the people with interest in really that with the real facts. They're being juxtaposed with lies, like serial killers and body dumping contexts and stuff like that. Even things like that, they get mixed through how police forms stay self-defending their roles with prostitution and things like that, switching names on police reports, forging names, and and then telling people to sue if they want to do something about it. This is gangland, and then they play gang. They spread rumors through gangs. They have strangers pretend they know you. You know what I mean? In relationship to confessions and threats about kids and stuff like that. So sometimes they jump to take some threats serious, and then others they'll jump to evidence fabricate ahead of it. In other words, to hide what they're doing through our cities and through our campuses, right through our innocence through time. This is why we have human value nature systems as ours in relationship to the areas of our cities. We know are ours. And it's got nothing to do with money. And the pathology of the minds and the psychology, they say it's just the way it is, it's business just the way it is. This is with the evidence fabrication method. They ignore real voice. Too many millions of people are crying out, and they're being forced to entertain people forcing their arms around and saying, look, this is prejudice. That's what it is. So they're ignoring the finite actual proofs of what it actually is. You know, for too long, the science has failed our streets, but not by accident. I'm not saying it to get upward and crazy. I'm saying we have to respond and force. We need internet site that you can't hide facts from. You can't defend the branches. You know what I mean? The branches have to admit that they were born breach, realize breach and proofs of it. You know, and not just go on what database evidence says. So we have three natures of zero, and we're going to see the 10. We're going to see appear at 100, 1,000, and then after three more zeros, a million. You know, it goes thousands, tens. It goes ones, tens. It goes zero, zeros. There's three natures of zeros. So, in my next video, I'll show you with the negative value nature. The negative numbers are from between here and here. Between here and here. That's negative value nature. But it's still value nature because it still has positive value that is unchanging, inherent to it. The identity of it inherent to all temporary value natures. So what gives it unchanging, what makes it unchanging to the whole body of space nature, including us, is that it's in demonstration to nature inherent to consciousness. Even consciousness is only semi-temporary value nature. You know, because our bodies die, and then our identities of consciousness have no more choices. We are the value nature that we stayed. So we have to understand roles with top-down, the sciences, forcing the exploitation of what was naturally revealed to humanity, obfuscated perpetually. And the method was to have everyone entertaining it being obfuscated perpetually as evidence fabrication natures to predict, to be able to maintain everyone with roles, justifying what really is to the maintenance of her conviction natures here, to all areas. Now understand how insidiousness the agenda was and the entrenchments were with the methods that were capable of writing laws and keeping terror databases from overseas positions that forced terror slavery, and then that forced that it be blamed on each other instead of explaining how legal natures, courts and international prisons with foreign natures never let go of. In other words, we negotiated with terrorism, and this nature of breach police intellect is it's killing us. It killed us. So we have fact. All we have to do is admit that we broke, and other nations wanted to, because business will never free the nature that's the nature here. We have to remember it. You have to understand the natives' dreams. I'm not kidding at all when I say that. And if they did have to go through, if they did think they have to go through with putting the pipe on the Native American landscape, there's got to be ways to monetize, at least to put it under the river. You know, even though it's more expensive, then the company can make energy other ways. You know what I mean? By revealing, by actively with that, understanding that the Native Americans still they never been free to be able to reveal the active landscape, an active relationship to it, especially not just with infrastructure, but with the water, with the energy themselves, organically, because we have the nature of water even denatured. We have the nature of potentials. People don't remember it because they were attacked. Education was humanly denatured. And it stays within possessions upon it that need to be explained by everyone distinctly, to all kinds of time impositions. No one has time for all the evidence fabrication natures being forced everyone to blame this on our own human nature, but it's really criminal persuasions, but it's really criminally legalized criminal persuasions. And so, but the legal natures were only let realize, not as Oz. Only be able to see this nature. No, they can't see. Every year we rake away the leaves. We mow the lawns. And it's all theater. It's all theater. Because not only was that to fertilize the earth, but that's what's diffusing. Life is a diffusion for a value that's expanded, is a progressive value to its whole overall body space. Demonstrably, this is why it's pushed away. Negative value nature. And demonstrably, that's why we have zero gravity space. Because as we deplete Earth's value, being negative value nature, only one species, we destroyed this Earth. And only delusions could defend that. And we don't have legal natures that are dealing with real facts. And then we have them entertaining Oz excuses instead of allowing ratiocination. Never let. The only way, not try. The only way. Ratiocination. Clap our hands. Each nation. We are one value. See who understands. We have we have. Forget about the deserts, because we definitely need to understand forgiveness for areas with no, that would, because there are proofs even that they might have taken down a mountain, and that's what the pyramids are about. In other words, if you take down a mountain, you're going to take down what pulls as you go up further away from the earth, the heat waves get further apart. It gets colder. You know, and the top of mountains freeze, and the wind, it pulls water out. The condensation comes down. It drips through the soil. It goes into the soils, goes down. You have rivers form. It collects to spots. You have rivers form. You have more rain now. You see what I'm saying? Now you have freshwater fish, all kinds of freshwater things. That's what the ancient. That's what means garden in religion. See, all stand from Ba. That's what it means. See, but no one has the means to counter legal natures with roles with internation police force since founded, because no one was ever let to realize anything but forced glorifications of insidious narratives. Hiding what we lost to in the American Revolution, so they force what we know, and there are proofs of forced political theater of our terror theater of our founders. They had to pretend they didn't realize things, and they had to pretend they didn't have free speech for ratiocination. They left us the proofs that we failed on intellectual fronts. And so our body, our service people, all the will to sacrifice, people's will to sacrifice. That's what the guy who I think was Major, I don't want to say the wrong name because I don't know if I'm going to say. But the guy who gave up his son. Then we're sad. That sacrifice. That son would not want. This is what I believe, and there's proofs that the son wouldn't want us just to go like this. He wouldn't want us. He wouldn't want his identity to be looked at as a contrast to the physical bodies he was fighting and the physical nations they were fighting. Our service people when they go to war. What they would want is what's holding war. Claimed part of what's necessary for stability and human value nature systems and identities of nations. They did nothing to connect us with other ulterior value nature systems to counteract anything ever happening with the bombs. All the nations, all the courts, they should do that. They should put a international bank account. Put money in there. One of them. But say, look, it's not for me. No one, money will never come out of it. Just look what will happen. You know what I'm saying? The whole world doesn't. We can't use might through divided business means without never free. Excuse me. They never had law with like ratiocination since ancient times. It just reminds. The campus broke. Campus Marcius here returns. No joke. Call campus with a dunce cap to the rear in shackle, please. I'll see with these. See. So, 10 is drawn to show how there's a value-nature relationship. And A is drawn to show how that value-nature relationship is to what is invisible, but through correlation. And with value W, not just with itself. All space nature shares the same positive identity. So right to left, we're going to learn the name of Allah. And then left to right, we're going to learn the name of Allah. And this is what it was revealed to teach. Positive A is space nature's the unchanging nature of space nature's positive identity. That is beyond the integrity of temporary space value nature, being with physical space value nature too. I forgot what I said now. You. But it rhymed with two. So, oh yeah. So right to left. That is H is the first letter. This is high. This is unchanging positive value nature's identity. A semi-nature of it only is coming through. In other words, is coming through temporary value nature. And this is used to teach it. Each letter of Allah. No, the first. No, let's learn it left to right. Okay. Unchanging space nature's positive value through correlation with the sciences. We label this value A, the capital value A, because it's an unchanging one. Unchanging positive is with the capital letters, because then we're going to show what's inherent to when and how the negative, the temporary value natures, like we are the lowercase values, but we can be inherent to consciousness is unchanging positive space nature positive identity. So when our identity falls within that range, it remains of a nature that stays progressively forever of better and better value, because value A is of a progressive value because of two value L's and because of value A, AH, coming through right to left, coming through temporary value nature. And as a nature that is right to left. In other words, in relationship to our perspective. But it's a nature that's left to right in relationship to our perspective through correlation, which is a value. So the numbers are unchanging space nature's positive identity. But to teach about it, we have to show how the letters are juxtaposed with the numbers. And we're going to teach about correlation of the invisible here with the discernible. And then with that is the completely invisible but still discernible value of unchanging positive value nature identity actively in demonstration to us. So there's that. Then there's the numbers, which are metaphysics before they are math. Metaphysics is a value that comes before math and came before matter, because it's the nature that came before matter, and it's nature in relationship to and with our identity that will be after matter. Our identity is temporary. We know they're forever nature, our identities. We just don't know the extent of it. But we could discern this through correlation with real science. But we can't hold religions to physical delusions, as the sciences do in relationship to criminal industry positions through them, in relationship to criminal legal positions through them, and with their roles with the courts. Just one-way reports. So that's it. And then we have, so just take a quick look. A, that value up and down is there's a longing. Oh, this is what I want to say. A, value A is unchanging space nature's positive identity. In temporary space nature, all that is not value A is longing to it. This is the force. When we are within the range of and as the nature of value A, a nature greater than temporary value nature longs to it, longs to our identity. And this is the might of evolution. In an organized crime method, set up a method of tricking nations and tricking the entire human value nature system to not realize and to blame on other things negative value nature progressions and truths that demonstrate this. We have offensively delusion propagating sciences, and worse, we have insidiously effects obfuscating sciences, and for agenda in relationship to business that was never free. The proofs of this. See you, see me. So everything has a purpose with English. Everything has a purpose. We have to understand metaphysics. See, metaphysics, they just name drop old names that they used to do it, and they call that science, because metaphysics is about the law, and they're telling lies and are as hurt conviction natures with the law. For example, in relationship to poverty, and in relationship to drug laws and stuff like that, and all kinds of other crimes that people don't hurt anybody. And they're not even, the people with the biggest drug rolls are right there with healthcare and with the courts tied to it, because they're just tied blind to what the experts say, but they're not using real evidences still since our founding. That's not by accident. In relationship to internation, prison, market, commodity systems, and positions in nature. With their 9 to 5, 9 to 9. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of people don't see the hurt. All they see is a landscape theater and water theater. We had all the Native American dreams. They understand. Well, you can know them through correlation. The fish, you don't even have to take care of them. They're right under the water. But we have no clean water. We have no fish. We're relying upon dirty ocean water, and farm fish. We're all packed in with no constant water. Just the same filtered water with all pee in there from the fish and stuff like that. Fresh water keeps going to sea and keeps coming, and the pee flows away from all the fish and stuff like that. That's natural. The Native Americans know that. That's how I'll do some art about that. I'm trying to make a story about it, about Romulus, and he gets adopted by Native Americans, and they make a revolution in colonial times. And James Madison did, but it was like the whole thing was set up. It's a comedy too, where white people are black, and so we can see a lot of things, and with a lot, and take away a lot of the hurt, and then understand complex organized crime that was in relationship, the methods that were in relationship to those terror laws, colonization, and so people understand them. That's really why these KKK people are allowed voice. But then internet police go right after people with nonsense. You know what I mean? But that's up there. And that's projected. You know, and at key times too, all of a sudden, you know, because they they have narratives and treatments of the law that force, you know, that's what, if you're insidious in relationship to complex live progressions, cause they have to tell other lies to cover that up, and that creates criminal insidiousness natures, creates wrongdoers with people that have nothing to do with it because of what, but they already supported the nature of it because of all the ways we exploit the law, because it's already, we know it's already animal. You know what I mean? We have animal laws. That's why they let human standards fail, and they let healthcare destroy, play roles with drugs through and games with the minds through innocence with elderly homes and with schools and per facts. Then they write facts to lie about it if you try to address the finite. That's because of how we're organized to stay on top of the finite to all areas, keeping everybody sharing means to get away with lying. In other words, and then just saying that's everyone does that, you know, and blaming it on the courts. So the courts can't do anything without, unless they admit we're broke. We have to admit we lost on many fronts in the American Revolution, and that our standards are ill, you know, and we have to understand all the evidence fabrication roles with healthcare and with database relationships, and how the natures of organized crime that our legal natures were never let not compromise to understand, and how, and the proofs of it, not hide it, you know. And you know, there are proofs that there are terror complex litigation agreements with terror sanctions preventing us, our leaders, from the free speech, from to be able to do this at the same time with multi-front positions in relationship to drug prices and all kinds of policing natures associated with all kinds of industry natures to all areas, and with all that juxtaposed with that not realized. This is the whole of the nations as ours, as evidence fabrication natures, as hurt conviction natures, and as indifferences to it all, to all areas, blaming it on each other, not understanding what really kept our streets, like especially our exploited areas, the most. You know, where there's the most shootings and things like that. This is not because they had mental problems. It's because they had legal nature problems before this, top down. That never let them, they never let their parents, they never let people have the law explained for them and defended. God help us. So all we need to do is admit it. Every nation wants it because we are the same. We know we all want gardening. We all know we want what these divided means can't afford. You know, read the natives' dreams and be insured.